Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joy, and today I'm talking about the equality initiative that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences just put out. And of course, that's the same folks who put on the Oscars every year. And according to Variety.com, as part of the Academy Aperture 2025 initiative, that's their diversity inclusion initiative, the Academy announced Tuesday new representation and inclusion standards in order to be eligible in the Best Picture category. So this doesn't look like it's all inclusive for every category at the Oscars. It's just going to be that main Best Picture category, which is odd when I say main because another of the big categories is Best Director. So I'm curious why we only getting, out of the hundreds of categories, we're getting just this one here. Anyway, let me continue. For the 94th and 95th Oscar ceremonies scheduled for 2022 and 2023, a film will submit a confidential Academy Inclusion Standards form to be considered for Best Picture. Now, I like to focus on keywords. It says will submit. It doesn't say must submit. It says will submit. Now, maybe that's only a minor difference, but it doesn't say must submit or there is this penalty. Maybe it's the same thing. You're just saying will submit, should submit. I like some stronger language there myself. Beginning in 2024, the 96 Oscars, film submitting for Best Picture will need to meet the inclusion thresholds by meeting two of the four standards. So I don't know if we're saying 2022, 2023 is a warm-up, or if it's really like, okay, we kind of want y'all to do this, but you don't really have to. But it looks like by the 96th Oscars, which are going to be in 2024, you have to meet two of these four standards. Goes on to say all of their Academy categories will keep their current eligibility requirements. For categories such as animated feature, documentary feature, and international feature that submit for Best Picture consideration, they will be addressed separately. So you could still win animated feature, documentary feature, international feature, and not meet these standards, but you wouldn't be up for Best Picture consideration. Now, I wonder if you can still submit and they say basically, nah, we can't even nominate you because you didn't do this. All right, so I'm going to go through the standards. What I've seen, and it says, is you have to meet two of the four standards. So there's some wiggle room there. So standard A is on-screen representation, themes, and narratives. To achieve standard A, the film must meet one of the following criteria. So it looks like 3, A1, A2, A3, A1. A lead or significant supporting actors have to be from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group: Asian, Hispanic, Latinx, Black, African American, Indigenous, Native American, Alaskan Native, Middle Eastern, North African. I always find it funny how North African is separate from Black African American. I say funny. It's not like I don't know the reason. Funny. And then when we talk about folks from East Africa, Somali, Ethiopians, who don't even consider themselves Black nor African American, if you use a really, 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 really broad definition. So I wonder if they're putting themselves in the North African category. And so A2, general ensemble cast. At least 30% of all actors in secondary or more minor roles are from at least two of the following underrepresented groups: women, racial or ethnic group from above, LGBTQ+, people with cognitive or physical disabilities, or who are deaf or hard of hearing. Then A3, main storyline subject matter. The main storyline theme or narrative of the film is centered on an unrepresented group's women. Would Ghostbusters count? The Ghostbusters with the women? A racial or ethnic group. Black Panther? LGBTQ+. What's LGBTQ+ that came out lately? Call Me By My Other Name. Is that one it? Or am I thinking of something else? And then people with cognitive or physical disabilities. Yeah, I'm trying to think of main categories: main storyline or subject matter. Maybe some of the documentary films. All right, standard B, creative leadership and project team. So A, and then there's B, C, and D. So you got 2 out of 4 chance. You got 50% chance of getting it right. So standard B is creative leadership and project team. B1, B1, B2, B3. At least 2 of the following creative leadership position and department heads must be from one of the underrepresented groups. And the department leads a casting director, cinematographer, composer, costume designer, director, editor, hairstylist, makeup artist, producer, production designer, set decorator, sound, visual effects, writer. That should not be hard. I honestly think you have to actually try. Out of all those positions, ice cream man is loud. Out of all those positions, you have to try not to have somebody from one of these groups. You really do have to try. That's why I say a lot of this discrimination in the past. Obviously, it has been intentional. You have to intentionally leave groups of people out to be that white and that straight. So from these department heads, and I read an article the other day that talked about how it was a girl from Black Panther who played the sister, Shuri. And she said, at this point, like, I'm on this movie and it's 90% black and I still have to ask for a head of hair and makeup to be black. Why is that? This is why. Because it has to be intentional to leave somebody out. So creative leadership department heads, the same kind of categories, ethnic group, or women, race, LGBTQ, people with cognitive and physical disabilities. B2 is other key roles, and they have a lot of stuff listed here. And then B3, overall crew composition. So A is really the on-screen representation and a storyline. B is creative leadership and project team, who's writing, who's department heads, cinematographer, hair and makeup. And then so C is industry access and opportunities. C1, you can meet this one and still qualify. The film's distribution or financing company has paid apprenticeships or internships that are from the following underrepresented groups: women, racial or ethnic group, LGBTQ+, people with cognitive or physical disabilities. Now again, this is the Academy's affirmative action plan. It is a response to Oscar So White, that hashtag that came up maybe 2017, and all these film stars are saying they're going to boycott. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett boycotted. So remember, while I'm saying all this, listen to all these groups, remember that this is a response to Oscar So White. That this initiative, let's be honest now, would not exist if not for Oscar So White, which in turn probably would not exist if we didn't see the Black Lives Matter movement happen. So C1, paid apprenticeship. C2 is training opportunities. Women, race, or ethnic group, LGBTQ+, both apprenticeships and training opportunities. And then D is audience development. You can also meet this one and still qualify for Best Picture. So D1, representation and marketing, publicity, and distribution. The studio and or film company has multiple in-house senior executives from among the following underrepresented groups on their marketing, publicity, or distribution teams. Now I wonder if that's why we're seeing all these, really, let's be honest, non-ADOS black actors getting distribution deals with Netflix. Obama's, they got a distribution deal with Netflix. Now you're telling me that Netflix can now qualify for Best Picture and meet these requirements because they gave the Obamas tens of millions of dollars for a production deal? Okay, I'm just stating the facts. So at the end of the day, in order to qualify for Best Picture, get nominated, you got to meet two of these four criteria: in theme, content, your actors, industry access, so developing your internships, so forth and so on. All right, so that is what it is. But when you start to really look behind the curtain, so to speak, if we're talking about theater, acting, or reading reading the fine print between the lines, this starts to look just like any other affirmative action program that has done everything but exclude straight white men. Again, let me remind you, this is a response to Oscar So White. Which is a response to decades of ADOS people, black people in Hollywood, being excluded from not only these acting awards, but any role that wasn't stereotypical and demeaning and dehumanizing. And this affirmative action program, whatever you're going to call it, how do you leave so much wiggle room? You only have to meet two of the four requirements to qualify. This affirmative action plan is just like the ones of the present decades. They're going to benefit everybody except ADOS. Just like throughout U.S. history. We supposedly turned a corner. We talk about when affirmative action was white. It still is white. It just isn't black. It's not ADOS. Case in point, if we go back in history, Homestead Act, where we like to say it was for any citizen who hadn't taken up arms against the United States and was 21 years of age. But no, really, it gave land in the Midwest to millions of Europeans. How many black people you know in the Midwest? I'm not talking about Chicago. I'm talking about in the Homestead Act Midwest, Nebraska, Wyoming, Utah. I'm talking about the out there in the mountains. How many black people y'all know out there? Black population like 2%. So you're telling me the Homestead Act benefited generations of ADOS, but there are barely few if any there? No, it gave privilege and opportunity to millions of European immigrants. Free land. Same way with the GI Bill. Oh, we integrated the military a long time ago. Of course, black soldiers, ADOS soldiers, have always fought on the front lines of every war that the United States has waged. From the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the Plains Wars with our Buffalo Soldiers, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, multiple times over, Afghanistan multiple times over. And yet we're denied the GI Bill, which is another affirmative action, quote unquote affirmative action plan that benefited mainly and mostly white males who were guaranteed home loans, farming loans, college loans, and their black counterparts were denied the same. So I'm just trying to piece together what these affirmative action plans have always been, both centuries ago and up until present day. And you asked me why I might be suspicious of this new initiative from the Academy. We can even take a look at JFK's executive order in 1965, which is where we actually have, get the term affirmative action from. It includes everything: race, religion, gender, national origin. But today, somehow, when we hear the term affirmative action, we think something that benefits black people. And I'm not sure where that notion came from. So I'm not sure why we see an initiative from the Academy and celebrities online, average Joe online fears that it might be something that benefits black people when that's never been the case in the past. So from reading from this executive of 1965, JFK, so we know what the language is. Quote, the contractor will not discriminate against any employee, and we're going to say contractor meaning someone who is getting money from the federal government. If I'm paying you for any service, any resources, then you basically got to do what I said. That's how our government is. Quid pro quo. We've always been quid pro quo here. The contractor will not discriminate against any employer applicant for employment because of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. The contractor will take affirmative action. The contractor will take affirmative action. Third time, the contractor will take affirmative action to ensure that applicants are employed and that employees are treated during employment without regard to their race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. Such action should include but not be limited to the following: employment, upgrading, demotion or transfer, recruitment advertising, layoff or termination, and so forth and so on. So in reading that language, even back in 1965, on the crux of the civil rights movement, the pinnacle of this movement, when we know who were laying on the streets of Selma, bleeding out, being hung all across the South. Even back then, this was not just for black people. So I'm asking, why is it that everyone seems to be afraid to be the first people to do something that's just for black people. And it doesn't take a genius to see the con in this initiative from the Academy. Folks on Twitter quickly pointed out the same thing I'm pointing out when the Academy released the news. So I'm going to read from this guy, Kyle Buchanan. I don't know, but he had to check, so look at me. Win a Twitter sheet. I just follow who I was, cite him because he has a check. And I like his points. Here we go. I've seen a lot of people saying, there goes The Irishman and Marriage Story. Did I watch The Irishman? Yeah, I did. I didn't watch The Marriage Story because it looked a mess, but I did watch The Irishman. And I liked it. Thing is, as near as I can tell, both those movies would still qualify. Each had at least 2 female department heads. So again, women, LGBTQ, race, ethnicity, disabilities. And B, the Netflix marketing team is pretty diverse. So that would meet the D criteria. A marketing, advertisement, production that is diverse. Tree of Life would still get in. At least 2 of its department heads were female and was put out by 2 companies, Plan B and Searchlight, with high-powered female execs. There we go again. Criteria B and D. Here's the thing. Almost every film would still be nominated under the new guideline. Most movies clear standard B easily, which is having a female department head. Who has affirmative action, especially with respect to college and jobs, benefited the most over the last couple decades? Women. White women. Excuse me, white women. Since jobs like costume design, hair, makeup, and casting are often filled by women. White women, let's get it right. Standard D isn't hard either since publicists skew female LGBT too. So again, A and C were specifically race ethnicity standards. And you see that most of these criteria, most of these movies that would be nominated for best film, best picture, are meeting criteria B and D, which are focused on department heads, who a fair number of are women, and production companies, marketing teams that skew LGBTQ and women, female. The more I look at this, the more I see that standards C and D are so easy to meet. Studios simply need a robust internship program. Well, thankfully, it says that you have to pay them now. I can't imagine how many interns have come and gone from Hollywood who are unpaid, who could be unpaid. And who can typically be unpaid? Your non-black interns. Your interns that come from privilege. Your Malia Obamas. Yeah, I don't think Barack and Michelle took that production deal not only to become those first ex-White House billionaires, but to give Malia a shoe-in the industry. Who else to run it? Malia's about to graduate. Just point out the obvious. So basically, he says it here, every film that studios could have put out, could stay the same, could remain homogenous, and still qualify. Now, Kirstie Alley, is it Kirstie Alley? Kirstie Alley. Is it Kirstie? I do feel like it's Kirstie. Whatever. She put out whose true claim to fame. Let me be honest. I know she used to be on Cheers, but that's not my generation. Her claim to fame to today has been being the quintessential has-been, popping up in endorsements that nobody else wants to do. And then, of course, she's the type that gets kicked out in the first round of Dancing with the Stars. So I'm trying to figure out who woke her up from her crypt to tweet. So in a tweet, Kirstie Alley wrote, "This is a disgrace in response to this initiative. This is a disgrace to artists everywhere. Can you imagine telling Picasso what had to be in his effing paintings? You people have lost your minds." So I'm trying to figure out, other than her brother, husband, father, her white husband, white father, white brother, who might be excluded, maybe, possibly, but you only got to meet 2 of the 4 qualifications. how this is harming Kirstie Alley. If you can easily satisfy the requirements by being a white woman. How are you hurt? Remember who your allies are. Now, you'd expect Kirstie Alley to be on board. Me Too movement has swept through. This would put her in more leadership roles and executive roles in the industry. Why would she be so against it? She's looking out for her family. Kevin Sorbo, another washed up actor. I think he's the guy from Hercules. I only ever watched Xena. Everybody only ever watched Xena. And if I'm lying, name something that Kevin Sorbo has actually been in the last 10 years. But he also felt the need to comment in response to Kirstie Alley's post. Quote, "I'm with you, Hollywood. Now if you could change the NBA and NFL and get more diversity in there as well. It's not about just having the best athletes anymore. We need people of all races and levels of talent playing professionally. Lose the best." But notice how, in reading that, he stopped at the NBA and NFL. Why not mention the PGA, the NHL? He conveniently leaves out hockey, soccer, which of course has way fewer black people than is representative of the population in the United States. And they really think we don't see straight through this projection? Oh, let me name 2 sports out of the half a dozen that are popular in the United States. And that'll prove my point. I mean, this is why we got to stop looking to celebrities for leadership. They're not very bright. And we can easily see through the con. So what's the point? Folks like Kirstie Alley and Kevin Sorbo and their Hollywood friends who believe that this is in any way going to benefit anybody, especially black ADOS people, are projecting. They're projecting because they have excluded people from their circles in Hollywood. That's what they have done. And they've done it because of race, sexual orientation. But that doesn't mean that black people, when we're put in positions where we can hire, run the show, that we're going to actually do the same thing. Again, that is called projection. I say it time and time again. It comes out in almost every video I do. That it's some of the naivete that has been a barrier to ADOS people claiming our reparations and what has been ours in the past. It's because we allow everybody into our community. And we don't oppress the way we have been oppressed. We don't exclude the way we have been excluded. We're not biased in the way that people have been biased against us. So that's what I think. It's a bunch of projection, and it's another affirmative action plan that benefits everybody except black people. Even in the sense that it benefits white men who can now say, oh, I met criteria B and D or C and D, and so now I'm good. I can get nominated for my movie. I can hire the director I want. I can still put my film in for consideration. And you can't tell me I'm racist. Looky here, I met the criteria. I did it, and I'm nominated, and I won. You can't tell me that I'm a narcissist or I'm misogynist. I met the criteria. Look at that. So we'll see, right? And for the people who say that, why do we even care about if black people Why do I care specifically if ADOS people win these awards? I used to like the Oscars. I used to watch. I don't know if I could say I care anymore, but there are people who do care. There are black people who do care and want to win these awards. There are ADOS actors and actresses who should rightfully win these awards. But that's not why we should care. That's not why I look at you like you're dumb when you ask me why I'm so pressed about Oscars So White or whether or not ADOS folks are nominated in these categories that have been whitewashed anyway. Well, would you not go to an elite school, an Ivy League school, the school of your dreams, because white people didn't used to let black people in it? Because it used to be non-co-ed? Would you not go? Even though that's where you've always wanted to go and you got in and you deserve to be there? Would you turn down that offer because, oh, well, they didn't used to like black people there. They used to make black people sit at the back of the classroom. So I'm not going to take the opportunity that my ancestors made possible. Are you not going to go enjoy the beautiful beaches of South Carolina? Because they used to be whites only beaches. Yeah, I always do my twang when I talk about the South. But I'm for real. Like, all this used to be whites only space. Are you not going to then enjoy them? Again, wait, the in the states and the countries that your ancestors built on their free labor, their slave labor that was stolen from them. Opportunities that were stolen from them. Are you going to keep saying, oh, well, I didn't want to do it anyway? Doesn't make sense. So for me, the verdict is out, whether this is a win or not. Again, I'm not an actress. I'm not an actor. I'm not a producer. I don't know if I say I'm a writer. I like talking. But if this is a win, I don't know. Right now, it's telling me no. Especially when you consider the movies that would be nominated. It's prestige movies, the Harriets, the Queen and Slims, the Get Outs that get nominated. None of those main roles are ADOS actors anyway. We're not getting what few nominations they are. So tell me, maybe leave a comment. Does this matter? Is this a nothing burger? It's a nothing burger right now as far as I consider, because it's written poorly. Just like HR 40, it's written poorly. The policy, it's poor policy. I don't see how it can be effective as written. But let me know your thoughts. Do y'all think the new inclusion protocols for Best Picture will actually make a difference? Is it more window dressing? I mean, should black people, especially ADOS, even care about these words? Let me know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.